March the 3rd, 2026. You're looking at current pricing of the stock markets at 10:20 a.m. Central Time. The Dow had dropped 1,200 points. It's rebounded somewhat. It's still minus 909 on the Dow, 113 S&P, and 400 on the NASDAQ. But it says this is happening as oil surges, bond yields climb in response to the deepening Iran conflict. It looks like it's taking on a few different aspects than what they initially calculated as far as timelines and the ability for Iran to respond. As of the last report I saw, 11 of Iranian ships had been taken out of commission. That was their major fleet. Now, I'm sure there's smaller boats, and I know that some subs were hit. But so we don't know the full thing on that. But what they have done now is technically close the straits. They had sent out a warning since maybe a day before this event started. And that really did close the straits, but now they have formally closed them and saying any ship crossing through there will be set ablaze. Is their pretty much verbatim quote on this thing. So it's now going to deepen, the oil crisis. Also, we had the liquid natural gas also getting blocked in the straits. And just kind of look around and see some of the effects. Again, 908 down on the Dow. Let's look at the price of gas itself and oil. And this is what we're seeing on the Brent crude, guys, 83.86. It's up $6.14 today. I think it had went up since the beginning of this conflict until late Sunday about $10, from $69 to $79. Then it dropped a little bit. Now it's back up $6.15 to $83.89. Let's just look at the 5-day chart. And this is what we have. Now, this is going to add up globally, and they're possibly talking about if it continues or it expands much further. Israel has now moved into Lebanon, ground forces, guys, to secure locations to prevent what happened the other night with that missile barrage. Anyway, look at this. 26, let's go down here. We were at 69.32. This is 5-day chart again. Coming up, started rise before the weekend, 73 in here. Now, we've hit as high as 80 in yesterday, went back down, and now we back into the 83.65 in 5-day chart. You can definitely see a brick wall right there. That's going to inflate everything that we do. The quicker this thing is over, the better. But now, again, Iran is a martyrdom type nation, especially when the mullahs are sending the young people out to do their dirty work. But if they are not going to go down without a complete fight, then there could be some decimation of oil production facilities, oil rigs, drilling facilities, things like that throughout the area, and pretty much shut it down. It's even their own oil supplies. Remember, wasn't it Iran or was it Iraq that set on all the oil rigs on fire that we saw during that conflict? Now, also, 20% of the liquid natural gas comes through the Straits of Hormuz for the planet. That's a lot, guys. And when you go into 25%, you're talking about a quarter of the Earth's supply. And so what has happened is, although we're at 20% on liquid natural gas, 20% on crude, we are at 25% stoppage on global shipping for other products. People mention there are other things you can do with oil and liquid natural gas, fertilizer, plastics, things like that. But there are also other exports involved. So right now it's shut down as far as other than just petroleum products, 25% of the planet's shipping. But here's liquid natural gas. Again, it is up 313 today. This is a 5-day chart. You can see the same spike coming into this week because of the intensity and the retaliation that we saw from the Iran and its proxies, both on Israel and all the bases in the surrounding area, including what were supposedly friendly bases. They weren't attacking Iran. They may have had something to do with a base being in their country, but everybody was hit. It was like they threw a fit against the entire territory because they had gone along with Israel, the Americans, things like that. But again, it's up 31-33 right now, and we don't have all of the current updates, but let's look at what we do have. Now, the strait itself, right through here, this is that bend, and there's the island of Hormuz right there. Very strange looking island, by the way. But it's empty. You've got some localized traffic in it, and look at the backups here. When I back out from here, people are stopping now and anchoring much further away from this proximity to the conflict, because you've got oil tankers everywhere in this area under anchor. It would be like a weapon of mass destruction if those areas were struck. Now, again, with the martyrdom mindset, you can't doubt anything. Guys, and as we back this out, again, here's the straits, pretty empty. You can see that both the Persian Gulf and the Gulf of Oman here are backed up much further. See this? See how it's starting to back up here? And look at the anchorages here in this particular section right there. Wow. And guys, these are trying to get in. Everything else is trying to get out. 25% of the global shipments come through that area. There's something wrong with that. But I guess when you're dealing with oil and big money and power, that's how it works, isn't it? But it looks like we're getting traffic down south of Yemen through this area. But I don't know how much they can reroute through this area, but what's happening, and it's costing them more, but I think maybe the insurance companies are going along with it. They're coming out of the Mediterranean through the Straits of Gibraltar, down through Africa, around the Cape here, and then to the supplies that were headed to Asia, to the Philippines, to India, to China, Japan, all of this area here. And you can see those shipping lanes are pretty active. The green indicates they're moving. When you see the round dots and stuff like that, they're under anchor. But again, you can see that lifeline is being diverted more and more. This traffic here is not nearly as thick. Look at that, because they know what's ahead of them. So that's what we're dealing with here. Now let's look at what is coming out of Iran on this information. They're saying, as of today, March the 3rd, the Strait of Hormuz is effectively closed to international commercial shipping due to extreme operational risk and direct military threats from Iran, though its legal status remains a point of international dispute. In other words, the U.S. and all are saying it's open, and the insurance companies and the owners are saying, wait a minute, it may be open, but we're not insuring billions of dollars worth of oil and ships and trillions of dollars and go out of business for doing it, because every insurance policy really fades away quickly in the act of a war. But Iran claims that on March the 2nd, yesterday, a senior official of Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Corps Guard, the IRGC, declared the strait closed via state television and VHF radio broadcasts. He further warned that any vessel attempting to pass would be set ablaze. Now, when you got a 20 and 25% choke point blockade, it continues to grow, even though you've got traffic turning back through the Mediterranean, out the straits, and around Africa. It's still going to continue, because that's not going to be able to keep up with the supply. And a lot of countries depend on it almost on a daily basis. But it says, international stance. The U.S. Central Command, CENTCOM, maintains that the waterway remains legally open for international navigation and has not recognized any formal Iranian blockade. Money speaks louder than the military in this case. De facto closure, regardless of the legal text. Traffic has ground to near halt for a fourth consecutive day. Major shipping companies, including Maersk, have officially suspended all transits. Think about that. They're rerouting. They're having to go through, I guess you're coming through the Suez Canal, places like that, to get back into the Mediterranean from the oil depots, I guess is what you would call it. And so that more time, more money, more cost, more wages, again, fuel costs, things like that. And so the price of everything is going to accelerate because of this 20 to 25% choke point. Guys, that's huge on an international scale. What are we looking at here? Are we looking at the world going to war over economics before all of this is said and done? Saying we got about 150 tankers that are currently anchored on either side of the strait, waiting for the security situation to improve. Insurance collapse. Most major maritime insurers, including the London P&I Club and Skuld, have canceled war risk coverage for the region, making it financially impossible for most owners to risk the crossing. So if you can't turn around, you're still a target. And again, with that mentality of martyrdom, that's worrisome. Anyway, on the market shocks, Brent crude prices surged by approximately 10 to 13% following the reports, reaching the highest level since 2025. And on natural gas, it says the prices have skyrocketed after Qatar Energy. I did a video on that showing the largest Middle East, at least the largest there, liquid natural gas production plant, had been hit, maybe by a drone or something. We could see the smoke coming up, and they had closed the entire process, this huge area, because of safety concerns. But it says it was, again, had to halt some production due to regional infrastructure attacks. Global pressure. China, the world's largest oil importer, has officially urged all parties to protect navigation and avoid further escalation in the strait. And what that is telling you, it's kind of like Paper Tiger. China was very loudmouth about not letting this happen. Russia was kind of in there too, but Russia understands a little bit better than China, or Russia agrees more with the policy than China did until it goes down. We haven't heard a word from either one of them except bring me more oil. And so it kind of tells you that what Trump is saying and Pete Hegseth is saying is that we have technology like no other army on the planet. They must know that. They're saying the blockade has removed approximately 20 million barrels of oil per day, 20% of global consumption, and 20% of natural gas from the market. The Brent crude has surged to $83 a barrel, with analysts forecasting a jump to 100 or 108 if the closure persists. And that they're talking about short-term closures. All right, inflationary pressure on central banks worldwide face a new inflation shock. There's the concern for me, is the world can't take 25% loss right now on some areas, because that spreads all around to every product you deal with. It says it's complicating monetary policy and threatening global industrial output, particularly in Asia. They need that oil supply from the Middle East. So now, would that change the paper tiger somewhat when this gets down to cutting to the bone? It says, again, the major shippers have suspended the Gulf transits. And this is in a section the guys put together about the global impacts. Rerouting vessels around Africa, adding 10 to 15 days to transit times, and skyrocketing freight cost. That's what I was saying. You're doubling, tripling the cost of goods because of that. Now, how far out, how planned out was this? You know, there's different theories out there that this goes a long way back to shaking down the British colonial power rule over Iran in that area because of oil. That the current administration has shaken those shackles off of Iran after all of these years. Who knows what the real thing of the whole deal is? We may never know all the pieces to the puzzle, But I'm very concerned, not only about we've lost a few more troops, but this is going to cause a global impact. What happens when nations are going broke and they're about to go into a hell-bent situation? They start a dang war. Now, they're changing the name in some circles of this conflict to the tanker war, or tanker. They're saying it's the gravest maritime disruption since World War II, guys, and that was unbelievable. We really don't know what happened to the Titanic. Was it an iceberg? Who knows during those situations and those times and periods. But we do know so many ships went down because of the German U-boats in the Atlantic and other places, right? And that shut down global traffic. They did it. Now, that's one good thing about them taking out the known submarines along the coastal Iranian ports. We don't know, I don't know what other submarine capabilities that they have or where they are at or anything else. We would never know that. But we do know that they have proxies around the planet. And many came in during the Biden Beach time. But again, the Gulf state problem. It says the monarchy, Saudi Arabia, the UAE, Qatar, Kuwait are seeing their primary revenue streams 30 to 90% of government budgets obstructed. So the pain starts there. They've got to get it ended. Many regional producers are expected to declare force majeure as storage facilities fill up due to the inability to export. Economies like Egypt and Jordan face immediate hits to Suez Canal revenue and tourism, while Lebanon is seeing intensified conflict between Israel and Hezbollah. Hezbollah sent those missiles in there the other night, and now there's a ground war in Lebanon as Israeli troops move in to secure the high ground to prevent and try to stop any future attacks. There's a lot of biblical implications here, guys. China is the world's largest oil importer. China is uniquely exposed. Roughly 50% of its oil imports pass through the strait. Sustained disruption threatens its manufacturing sector and national power grids. Will that paper tiger grow steel teeth? Are you listening? Under stress, a wounded animal is very dangerous. Now, China has been one of the nations, guys, I was reading about it the other day, that has been very hush-hush on its strategic oil reserve. We read that, I think, India has 9 days, some areas have 3 or 4 months, things like that, some maybe a year. But again, at 50% in China of their oil imports passing through that strait, and that's a daily basis, then that whatever amount in reserve they have will be decimated very quickly, if half of it. It says, while less dependent on Gulf oil due to shale production, the U.S. faces domestic energy affordability challenges and a massive military commitment with 2 carrier strike groups, the Lincoln and the Gerald Ford, deployed to the region. It says Russia may benefit in the short term from soaring energy prices and its position as a safe alternative supplier for Asian markets. And that's what you call 3D chess on Putin's part. And I say that because he may not have wanted this conflict to go on, but he knew that he was going to make money off of it if it did. But how will it realign the global politics, guys? Will it affect that? Think about what it's done. We're so petroleum-based worldwide. That's why I love my solar panels. I wouldn't want to be tied to any solar panel grid anywhere on the planet. That's not feasible, and it's not going to last long. It's too exposed on a wide range. A tornado come through a hailstorm or anything like that, comes through one of those big solar fields, everybody tied to it's wiped out. If on my array of solar panels here, if a tornado hits my yard, it's just me. You know what I mean? Or tree falls on the panels. They're kind of separated, but it's not the entire area. And it's much easier to rebuild that system than to rebuild a very large, complicated infrastructure. But other things can we do? Because they all know on the top level that we're running low of oil. You know, they mentioned because of the U.S.'s shale oil, which is fracking, and it's killing the groundwater systems. All of that, but it's money, it's greed, it's power, and they've dug the hole so deep on petroleum needs and dependency that it's almost too late to turn around. But anyway, the world is focusing on accelerating investments in nuclear energy. Think about that right now. And getting away from the Middle Eastern fossil fuels, which are not fossil fuels. There's a renewed urgency for the UAE and Saudi Arabia to maximize alternative pipelines to the Red Sea and the Gulf of Oman, though these currently can only offset about 2.6 million barrels per day of the total disruption. So they're looking at the different factors, adding pipelines, rerouting flows, looking at changing to more nukes, probably. You know, we were seeing the end, we may have seen the end of these large windmill fields, these large wind turbines, which is great because it was killing birds, it was throwing everything off, and when they get through these giant blades, they're basically some type of carbon fiber that's very damaging to the environment. They can't do anything with it. And so I'm glad of that, but I don't know what they're going to do. We got a lot of people, and different companies have tried. You've seen Tesla and different, now Mercedes, and everybody trying to create electric vehicles. And Mercedes just had to recall just about a whole shipment of these things, not just a shipment, but a dealer-wide shipment of the electric Mercedes because of fire hazards. So we're kind of stuck in a mess, and this is what happens. Something like Noah's flood comes, or some world-changing event when the world is at a tipping point, and it was in the days of Noah. The fallen angels had made sure of that through their technology, the giants, the wars, all of that. And that was the way that's the only reason civilization maintained, is because a lot of the nonsense was taken out. And I've said this before, and it's in the Bible. This time won't be by flood, but by fire. And why is that? Because of what we're talking about right here. One reason is it's going to burn up the evil elements. A flood won't wash away a trillion gallons of oil or trillions of gallons of oil spilled into the oceans of our planet through old and rusty rigs, ones that are involved in war, the ship damages, the spills, like the ExxonMobil, the BP oil spill in the Gulf of America. It doesn't go away. It has to be burned. And the earth will be cleansed again. We are in some really strange times, and more of what I'm talking about needs to be discussed on a higher level as far as reevaluating where everything stands now. It's almost, you're talking about the spreading of war because of economics. Well, that never works out very well, especially for the majority of the planet. But guys, I just wanted to come in and point out this section of the war, the long-term effects, and it's really going to be from its short-term building into longer-term effects. And so be prepared for that. Just look at go in and type in the nation's average gas prices and start looking for yourself what's happening. California's still the highest, and highest taxes, and it's amazing because California imports a lot of its own oil. Something in it. There's a lot of grifting going on in that state. That's why everyone's moving out. But we're watching this, guys. As soon as we get some more updates, I have time to sit down and take care of it, I'll let you know. We got two sides to the war, and I'm looking at both. It's a heads up, guys. Again, be safe.